I stand here with a terrible, terrible disadvantage because I have so much I want to share with this honorable House, and I now have to take some time to respond to the utterings of the last most honorable speaker. She mentions the airstrips that were cut.
I'm sure you mean the statement.
The statement, Mr. Speaker. My apologies. She mentions the cutting of funds in the last Parliament for the airstrips in several interior locations, and she does not recall that I happened to be in the former Speaker's room consulting with the former Minister of Finance when us in the opposition at that time pleaded that the airstrips in several important interior locations would not be included with the cuts that we needed to be made. And it was the most honorable last speaker who said they all had to go. In addition, retribution and revenge have been the words that have been bantered around this most honorable House. I want us to remember that there's an important word called scam that defined what Guyanese were faced with in the last 23 years. I will only mention gold. When we talk about contracts that are not being renewed, I think this government has absolutely every right to take that position. We have a contract for the building of the Cato Secondary School that has gone over $1 billion, and we still cannot put students in that school today. And therefore I say there is a big injustice that has been met to this honorable House. Let us talk about additional contracts where we're previously only sent to one particular agency that provided all the medical supplies for this country at a more expensive price. And worse yet, we were required to pay upfront for pharmaceuticals that have still not been delivered. When we talk about the one laptop per family program, we still have in our inventory 4,000 laptops without batteries. How do we give those to the indigenous communities? And of course, the greening of Guyana that all citizens are benefiting from. We in this House passed $1 billion in the last Parliament, and there was nothing to see. And therefore I say, I urge the most honorable last speaker to bring a list to this Parliament of all the persons that she thinks have been dismissed from any position. We have the right that if contracts are up, not to renew them. I regret that the services of the former speaker were terminated in a manner that she clearly is very upset with. And I would like to say that we are all about healing and conciliation on this side of the fence. And at any time, we are willing to work with her. With that said, I really do want to change my tone and get to the sense of my very, very interesting presentation. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to lend support and to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Finance on presenting Guyana's largest budget. This well-crafted $230 billion development-oriented budget. Under the theme, stimulating growth, restoring confidence, the good life beckons. The official Gazette of January 18, 2016 highlights the creation of a new Ministry of Public Telecommunications, which now encompasses the original responsibilities of tourism and a series of other agencies, including telecommunications, tourism, the postal and telegraph services, and agencies such as e-government, the National Data Management Authority, the National Frequency Management Unit, the Post Office, and the Public Utilities Commission. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we must recognize the importance of developing our ICT sector and placing it at the center of our development plans. Fundamental to this is providing internet access and connectivity across all regions of our country, and designing a national broadband policy and implementing the supporting strategies. Mr. Speaker, the socioeconomic impact of broadband in Latin American and Caribbean countries, as stated in an IDB report of 2012, highlights the 20% increase in broadband penetration in any country was associated with a 1.34% increase in GDP. In 2007, it went to 2.29%, and in 2009 to 3.19%. These findings show that the greater number of broadband subscriptions in a country over time, the greater impact it will have on your GDP. This is why, Mr. Speaker, the UN advocates as an important sustainable goal, and that's goal number 9C, that we as countries, and I quote, significantly increase access to information and communications technology and strive to provide universal and affordable access to internet in least developed countries by 2020. Mr. Speaker, there can be no doubt that the development of an ICT sector in Guyana can transform this country. We continuously read about it and see it in other countries, how this sector has become the engine of growth for global and social economic growth. In the Caribbean region in the past 2 decades, we've seen it has been a period in which we've seen the introduction and spread and the use of mobile phones, personal computers, tablets, the internet, and a dramatic expansion in the number and range of telecommunications and broadcast media providers, and the growth of applications of ICT in business, in schools, and in households. Information and communications technologies have emerged over the past decades as one of the most viable representations of modern development, profoundly influencing production processes and social life. Regrettably, however, over the years in Guyana, the development of ICT as a contributing productive sector has been slow. The high cost of supporting infrastructure, the absence of enabling legislation, limited skill sets has been a significant contributor to this state of affairs. In general, the growth of ICT in Guyana has been a very mixed bag. It has meandered, it has had its fits and starts, and it's had some individual achievements, but by and large, 2016 still finds us behind our Caribbean colleagues in terms of scope, function, and overall contribution to national development. We understand that the appropriate utilization of ICT can improve the lives of all Guyanese, and therefore must be the fundamental cross-cutting component in the overall national vision to build an information society by extension, and also attain developed country status in the coming years. Our discussions on the challenges in the rice and sugar industry and the decline of gold prices are all grim reminders that despite our commitment and the sentiments, this primary sector can no longer continue to be the only economic driver in our economy in its current scope and framework. It is the technology-driven knowledge management industries that will have to be the cornerstone of our country's future. This will involve the growth of ICT as a standalone economic sector and its application in all other sectors to achieve rapid and sustained development. We will need to grow and nurture this industry with policy and legislative frameworks, traditional ways of incorporating technology, such as the importing of machinery and equipment, or direct foreign investment. All of those, incidentally, are not enough to confront the challenges of inclusive economic development. So the mandate of this new ministry is clear. It is the effective implementation and utilization of ICT to modernize Guyana to the benefit of all its citizens. We have several fundamental goals and objectives. We must, as a national imperative, utilize ICT to improve the delivery of government services to our citizens. We must be able to process our various applications online and quickly, and to get immediate responses to our queries through electronic and live help desks. Visits to government offices to collect a form and having to return to drop it off must become a thing of the past. And what does the implementation of ICT really mean in a practical sense? It means that our children in Anai, or students attending the Bina Hill Institute, or in Aranapita, for example, must be able to benefit from the knowledge and tuition that the biology teacher at Bishop's High or Queen's College offers. Today's technology makes it easy with Skype and other platforms for distance and education and learning not to be hindered. And therefore, we have to use technology to be able to offer education to our remote hinterland areas. In the area of health, for example, if a medic in Napi, for example, needs the support with a medical issue in his community, he must be able to communicate online with a doctor in Georgetown or any other location close for consultation and related assistance. To my colleague Valerie Patterson, I want to assure you that when we are finished, you will be able to check the status of those housing applications online without the current challenges of limited bandwidth and slow speed. Mr. Speaker, this makes sense, and we can generate economic growth and stimulate development in a series of different sectors. But we need to design appropriate policies, establish a proper regulatory framework, ensure institutional strengthening, training, and infrastructure, which really has never been done before to date on a national basis. I mentioned infrastructure. Should we talk about infrastructure in ICT? Where's the fiber optic cable that we spent $200 million on? $1 billion of Guyanese taxpayers' money, and we have nothing to show for it. The past government had to throw it aside. So I say to the Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Hamilton, who is the vampire that sucked us dry? Despite the rantings on the other side, we will not and shall not forget what existed prior to 9 months ago. The government of Guyana will ensure that affordable universal broadband access is available for all our citizens, the private sector, government and civil society, thereby eliminating the digital divide. Universal access will extend beyond voice to include internet, computing devices, information literacy, and access to telecommunication services. All of these, we know, once put in place, will significantly enhance our gross domestic product. Guyana, because of its competitive position in terms of salary, cost of operations, has a tremendous opportunity to become a leading provider of ICT in the Caribbean region. The local operations of two of the largest call center providers in the industry, and also the call center that I opened just a few months ago, are testimony to this real potential. Mr. Speaker, the development of our ICT sector offers a tremendous opportunity for young people who naturally and instinctively are experts in the use of these new technologies to be gainfully employed. So, contrary to the Honourable Member of Parliament Ramson's assertion that we are on this side of the House promoting youth unemployment, I wish to provide him with some information and education on what we plan to do. We will use ICT to enable and foster the process of innovation, and we intend to ensure that our young people in Guyana are the beneficiaries of this program. As a government, we intend to use the technology and to revolutionize the way we act, different ministries and different agencies. And we are ensuring that we're going to computerize and bring the technology to the way government does business, as I mentioned. One of the basic things that we intend to do is to create information hubs, and as you can imagine, in each of these ministries, we will need to establish programs by which data collection of our old records are actually completed. And so we are confident that we will be able to bring a large number of young people on in that area. Mr. Speaker, liberalization of the telecommunications sector has been on the agenda for several years. A revised telecommunications bill was tabled in this National Assembly and has been subjected to scrutiny of a select committee of the House. Both government and opposition seemed united in the search, and we are committed to bringing this legislation that will end the monopoly in this sector to this Parliament before the end of this year. But there are several consequential matters that remain to be settled, for which further consultations with a major player, GT&T, are ongoing. It is hoped that the process of liberalization, as I mentioned, would be completed this year and the national spectrum be opened up to all strategic partners, and we promise that it will be on a fair playing field. Comprehensive intellectual property is fundamental to this. And also, we want to make sure that training in the national ICT sector to all levels of our population takes place. The 2016 budget reflects government's enduring commitment and responsibility to increasing investments in this area. Overall, this year, government plans to invest $1,854 million Guyana dollars in supporting ICT, and we're going to do this through the e-governments unit. I'm happy to say that an additional $108 million will be allocated for the creation of off-site data centers and secure data management storage systems for ministries and government agencies. Strengthening the e-government unit is an important part. $326 million is also earmarked for the design and implementation of interconnection between agencies, state buildings, educational facilities, and we intend to provide internet access to all schools free of charge to those educational institutions. We will set up ICT hubs in various communities and also ensure that the level of poverty and remoteness in various locations are transcended with technology. Mr. Speaker, there are many other aspects of what we plan to do. The time will not permit me to mention. But there is a $25 million towards the establishment of a Center of Excellence for Technology. And also, the government will spend a further $100 million to repair and upgrade the Georgetown to Linden fiber optic cable, which will ensure that we do have connectivity in our country. I want to move on to some of the additional sectors that are very important to this department. As you know, we have our National Frequency Management System, and that unit is responsible for the allocation of radio frequencies. This year, the frequency management system will continue to ensure that we look at a fair and equitable allocation of frequencies. And we will be also, they will be continuing their program by which, and that program is called Girls in ICT Day Activities, by which more female participation in the ICT sector will be guaranteed. So I say to the Honourable Member MP Hamilton, it's ICT also for our women, not only bacon saltfish. I want to mention also the National Data Management Authority, which under this new ministry is going to be revamped and will become an integral part of the e-governance unit. In addition to those industries, I want to mention the Public Utilities Commission, and that is the statutory organization which regulates a series of our utilities. I'm happy to say that the Public Utilities Commission last year was able, through claims that were put into it, to award $17,596,000 to claimants, general members of the public, for claims that were granted to various utilities, including our Electricity Corporation and the Guyana Water Authority. Mr. Speaker, I have so much I want to tell you, and I must move on immediately to tourism. Contrary to some of the feelings, tourism is an important aspect of the new Ministry of Public Telecommunications, which has responsibility for tourism. Mr. Speaker, over the last 7 months, we have been able, I turn to tourism, which is the thrust of this ministry. At this point, it's important to note that the budget's direct contribution to the tourism sector has in fact increased from $214.6 million in 2015 to $312.7 million in 2016. This represents a $98.1 million or a 45.7% increase in direct allocations to the tourism sector through the Ministry of Tourism and the Guyana Tourism Authority. This is hardly the action of a government who, as my learned MP Salman described, is, I quote, giving less priority to tourism. The Honourable MP Burton, in her presentation, stated that tourism, I quote, was being taken on a tour to nowhere. Oh dear, what a statement to make. I would like to inform the Honourable Member that in 2015, 206,809 visitors, that is non-residents, paid their hard-earned money to come and enjoy this tour to nowhere. Most recent tourism statistics also show, and I got these just a couple days ago, that the largest number of visitor arrivals ever in the month of January occurred last month, with an increase of over 3.2 arrivals, taking it to 14,445 arrivals. Mr. Speaker, we must be fooling a lot of people because all of them are coming to enjoy this tour to nowhere. And guess what? We fooled CNN too, because the Big Earth documentary listed Guyana as 101 amazing adventures of the world. Then we fooled National Geographic, as they listed us as some of the best trips in 2014. And guess what? In December we fooled BusinessInsider.com of the UK, which placed Guyana 9 out of 12 emerging travel destinations to visit in 2016. Mr. Speaker, the hard work of our tourism stakeholders and organizations like the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, that started decades ago, but which is now receiving real government support and focus, is finally paying off. We have gone out to the international tourism market, and they're saying to us, we love it and we want to come. And when they come, there's a piece of the pie for every Guyanese to enjoy. It is us in this room that can pose the greatest distractors to the development of this industry. All of us who choose not to tell the complete story. Those of us who cannot find any good in our attempts to move Guyana forward. And yes, I continue to say move Guyana forward because I recognize the contribution on all sides of this political house as they have all moved this nation forward. I applaud all of them. And in this vein, I reach out to the media to ask you not to censor your stories of crime, but to be balanced in your coverage of the reports to bring the perpetrators to the courts, as we are doing, and to ensure that you are part of the process of fixing the challenges we face in negative publicity. As a Barbadian colleague stated to me, Kathy, your biggest problem is that it's plastered on your front pages. Everywhere got crime, but we handle it differently. Tourism is about creating opportunities, about creating hope. And I am convinced that the economic impact that we will recognize. At this point, I want to state that the National Competitive Report of May 2013 stated that the value of Guyana's tourism product, that is the hospitality and associated services, could be as much as 214 million Guyana dollars roughly, or 3% of GDP. The World Tourism Council...
Honourable Member, you have 4 minutes remaining.
The World Tourism Council puts that figure at 3...
May I move that the honourable member be given 5 minutes extension to her allotted time.
I thank the Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you will speak for 35 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want now to look at some of the achievements that we are happy to share over the last couple months. The National Tourism Policy. Finally, we have been able to complete our National Tourism Policy. The overarching framework within which these developments are to take place in Guyana are embodied in our National Tourism Policy. In fact, this policy was sent to our stakeholders, and I do apologize to the the MP, Afiko Salaman, to whom I did not share a copy of that report, that policy, and I will be sending that to her later today. Our eco-tourism policy recognizes our niche markets, which of course we have said are our fishing, our sports fishing, our community-based tourism, our yachting, the advent of smaller yachts, smaller tours companies to Guyana. I want to also mention our adventure and leisure part of the industry, and most important, community tourism. We have started an integrated process which includes the Ministry of Tourism, the GTA, and several other government agencies in ensuring that we implement a proper tourism satellite accounting system, which really will measure the real opportunities and contributions of this sector. Hinterland tourism is an important aspect of what we've been doing, and I'm happy to say that substantial funds in the budget have been presented in that area. And in the area of hinterland tourism, we've actually gone to a series of our hinterland locations, and we've created a model called READY, which was a model designed in Region 8. And what we did in Region 8, as we plan to do in all the regions, is to establish an inventory of tourism products that can be developed. And we've actually got a comprehensive list of all the funding agencies. So we have been going out to communities across Guyana, saying to them, sending your proposals, and we are assisting them to get funding. And contrary to the gloom that is presented on the other side of the house, there is excitement in tourism because we have many, many, many individuals coming in and many proposals to deal with. On the Global Marketing Fund, I think I have mentioned in several areas our commitment, and funds have been allocated to increase the level of promotion that we're doing internationally. We have, for example, signed on to an arrangement with TripAdvisor to ensure that we are recognizing our specific niche markets where the tourists are coming from, and we would be targeting those segments specifically. We are also working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and in the material that we have produced and plan to produce this year, for example, we have upped the level of display units, brochures, and a range of other things that are now visible at our embassies and high commissions overseas. I'm happy to report on our initiative with Barbados. Under that Memorandum of Understanding, the private sector in Barbados and in Guyana are networking to ensure that we can package the beauty of Barbados' beaches and the excitement of Guyana's ecotourism. The Guyana Shield is a whole new area that we have been looking at. And the Guyana Shield is the countries of French Guiana and Suriname. And believe it or not, those locations are the answer to the challenges we face in airlift. We can reach a range of tourists coming from the European destinations by having them come through either French Guiana or Guyana. And I'm happy to say that we had tour companies and a farm trip just recently from Suriname, and already 43 tours have been finalized. So I say that there is lots that's happening. The key way to sell our destination, we recognize in a cost-effective way, is our participation at international trade fairs. And we have gone to specific trade fairs in the bird watching market and also in our adventure leisure market. The other initiative that is part of our plans for 2016 is the promotion of farm trips. And it is through the promotion of farm trips just in the last 4 months that we have gotten coverage in several international newspapers and online editions, including Huffington Post and the New York Times.
You have 4 minutes remaining on the speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, there is lots that is going on. The partnerships that we are focusing on, our commitment to training in terms of the development of our tourism and hospitality school is another commitment to where we want to be. We currently are looking at the plans for the development of the school are on the table, and we anxiously await the conclusion of those. And I'm happy to say that the Hospitality Institute will become part of the University of Guyana education system. Mr. Speaker, I know that advertising and social media are important aspects, and I want to say that we have already developed relations with a team of young tech-savvy entrepreneurs, Guyanese entrepreneurs, that are already preparing a series of apps. And these are apps that will be screened and available for our 50th anniversary celebrations. There are several things that I want to say in closing. I know my fellow MP on the other side mentioned that, and that is MP Selman, and I really want to say to that Member of Parliament, I want to thank her for the series of recommendations that she made in her presentation. I think her presentation was the spirit of what we hope to see in this House, in this honorable House. And I do have a few questions to her, answers to her questions. The first one is she asked about the tourism policy. I want her to know that has been disseminated, so that's done.
You have 2 minutes remaining, Honourable Member.
She also asked about, sorry, yes. Please, I apologize. I profusely apologize. I know the honourable member asked about, also she asked about, she mentioned tourism information sites. I'm happy to say that through the Visit Guyana cluster, we have opened one in Latham, and the current home of the Tourism Authority is going to be another location for an information booth. She also mentioned tourism representatives at some of our police stations. We have actually gone a step further and have drafted the design of a small tourism police force that I do have to raise with our Minister of Public Security. So I want to say that there are several of the issues and concerns that were raised that we are happy to say we have closed. At the end of the day, I want to say to this most honorable House, tourism is a strong source of investment for Guyana. Guyanese and those overseas have the opportunity to come and invest in our product. And I think I have sold you on the possibilities that this sector has for moving our country forward. I therefore want to work with everyone, anyone, the students, including former ministers of tourism and MPs on the other side of the House. I think together we can make a difference and we can change the tone of the debate in this honorable House. At the end of the day, this is about making sure we create a better Guyana that we leave for our children. I therefore commend this budget to this honorable House for its passage and congratulate the Minister of Finance once again. Thank you.